this new moon is in Magha nakshatra. So Leo is ruled by the sun. It shows the clarity and power of individuality. Magha nakshatra is the king sitting on the throne. A big 30-day cycle ahead. So as you can see here, on August 30th at about 2:30 in the morning Pacific time, the moon will be new, very close to the sun here, in Magha nakshatra in Leo. Now this is a 30-day cycle, started at that time where sun and moon come together in Leo. You see sun, moon, and Mercury are all three in Magha nakshatra at the first 12 degrees and 32nd portion of Leo. Now, of course, this is the sidereal zodiac. And of course, in the sidereal zodiac, everything is aligned with the nakshatras. The signs and the nakshatras align, as is said in all the Vedic astrology texts. And that includes, of course, Leo, where the first portion, the first 12 degree 32nd portion, 13 degree 20 minute portion, 13 degree 20 minutes is Magha nakshatra, okay? Now, this is the section of Leo that's related to the king on the throne. This is definitely one of those nakshatras where you see, all of them, you really see the connections between the signs and the nakshatras. It's very clear. This is one of the most important. You really notice it because it's that first section of Leo, and the entire nakshatra schema, the entire, every indicator of this section is shown clearly by Magha nakshatra. Of course, by the way, if you're using tropical zodiac, it's the beginning of Virgo, which makes no sense that you would have Magha, which is the king on the throne. It's related to a throne, literally, like the symbol is a throne. It's actually what's called the palanquin, which is the royal seat. Have you ever seen, in Cleopatra, when they carry her on that seat through the streets and through the kingdom, sitting on that seat? That's the symbol of this nakshatra. So again, this is clearly a section of Leo. It shows very clearly how these two zodiacs align. But this is the section of Leo that shows this quality of birthright and this ascension to the throne. So just think about it this way. The king is not elected. It's not a democracy, right? In the truest sense and in the highest sense, this is what Leo means, right? It's a king, it's his birthright. It's conferred upon him or her, king or a queen, royalty. It's not elected. And the good king, or the king that is worthy of his power, doesn't take that power and use it for their own personal gain, but instead they take that power of the kingdom because they know the true nature of self, and they share that power. But what makes for a good king? Well, good teachings, higher wisdom. And this is, again, that section of Leo called Magha, because the deity of Magha is the Pitris, the divine ancestors, which are the teachers that show us the true nature of the world, the self, the kingdom itself, what true power is. So again, you have to understand, in this modern world, we live in a very corrupt world. Power is corrupt. Politicians are corrupt. Kingdoms are corrupt. If someone is a king, they're probably a monarch. They're probably exploiting others. They're probably stealing all the money in the kingdom for themselves. But that's the modern version. In the ancient version, Lord Rama was a king. Lord Krishna was a king. They were divine progenitors of culture. They were the one that had all the power, the duty, the responsibility. And when you see good kings, even in this lifetime, it doesn't have to be a king of a government. Even the king of business, of enterprise, And in fact, in many ways, business leaders and those with money are the modern kings, or the king makers, or the ones with the power. Particularly in this world now, the politicians aren't really the ones with the power. They're the ones that are corrupted and that are corruptible. The ones with the power are the ones with the money and the influence. Some of them have the influence to buy the politicians and then take more money for themselves. Again, notice this, especially in politics. But then there are some who make a lot of money and they're very generous with it. They want to take that money and that power they have and uplift everyone, uplift the world. So in this day and age, the real kings are the ones with the money, are the ones with the power. And this is the nature of Leo, even more than kingdom and whatnot. Of course, there is this authority that's conferred, and even in a mundane sense, the sign of Leo and also the sun shows a relationship to government, power, powerful officials, powerful people. So there's definitely that crossover. But notice how, more than anything, this nature of the sun as the ruler of Leo shows the potential to be benevolent and generous with your power, or sort of greedy and selfish and sort of take it from others. And again, notice the culture that we live, even as it relates to business and money. CEO pay far exceeds the pay of the workers now. It's been this uneven curve for the last 30, 40 years, especially when it was really looked down upon to do that. Now it's almost like a sense of entitlement, especially since we went through the 80s. Everything changed. But not to get too political, but this is a very political sign. It's a time to notice, politics aside, your power, your nature. What do you do with the power you have? Do you just take money because you want more and more of it? Or is it important for you to deliver something of value based on the value that you take, based on the money that you get? You want to make sure that the value is equal or is equitable, that there's a fair exchange, that you're not just taking power from others to look glorious, but in fact you're sharing what fills you up. Now, in the highest sense, Leo is this kind of transformation where we transform our relationship with power and clarity and illumination and this light within us. So it's something that we radiate naturally based on our vision, again, based on our teachings, our teachers. Those teachings and teachers and truth inspires and compels us to want to share and give all the power we have as much as we can, and then trust that we'll get back what we need. But the focal point is on the giving. That's why Leo is a sattvic sign, a sign of giving. And when we're coming from that point of view, then we're not just playing some kind of egotistical game of getting into power struggles with other people, because this is the negative quality of Leo, is that power struggle where only one person can be powerful. There's only one king at a time, and I'm the powerful one. Again, in the lower sense, that's the power struggle. It can be difficult for relationships, for example, where we want to be the powerful one. We want to be the one who is, revered and celebrated. And so often when people have a lot of planets in Leo, they need to have some big enterprise, some big work to do, some big difference that they're making, some purpose behind it all. Otherwise, they just get into personal power struggles with others. And when that happens, and when we live through the ego, Leo becomes very much a kind of shell game of power, becomes power struggles with others. And again, that really wears us out in the sense that we then aren't really expanding and growing and serving and giving, but instead we're just acting through our confidence level. Well, I have a confidence to do this, so I'll try it. But then things outside of our comfort zone, we shrink from when the Leo energy is weaker. So again, if that's what we're doing, then we're not going to grow our business, we're not going to grow our family, we're not going to contribute more, because that higher contribution, that higher growth is going to be outside of our comfort zone. It's going to require us to act in accordance with what inspires us and what our principles are and what our higher teachings are, not act in accordance with what's going to make us look good in the moment, because we might look bad. We might make a mistake. Making a mistake is part of, sometimes we make a mistake. Often, in fact, we make a mistake because we're trying to give more than we can, handle. And when we do that, then we learn how to do it better. There's nothing wrong with making those kinds of mistakes. I saw a quote recently that said something like, the difference between a master or, a professional and a beginner is that a professional has failed more times than a beginner has even tried, or an expert and a beginner. Is that an expert has failed more times than a beginner has ever even tried. Think about it. So someone who's an expert at something are experts because they failed more times than a beginner has even tried. And the reason the beginner doesn't try is because they're afraid of failing. They're afraid of being embarrassed. They're afraid of looking foolish. This is all sun energy filtered through the ego, filtered through this fear of embarrassment, this fear of making a mistake. But see, what happens is when you're filled up with that joy of giving and that fire of life, then that's not your motivation. You're not motivated by looking foolish anymore. You're not motivated even by having people like you or making sure everybody's okay. Is everybody going to be okay if I step up and shine brightly like the sun? That's not going to offend you, is it? Oh my God, people might think I'm conceited. People might think I'm, arrogant or conceited if I, proclaim that I'm a great teacher, or I think I can teach these courses, or I think I can do this. What are the people going to think who've known me all my life? And they say, oh, he's just this little person. Who are you to step up and be big and bold? Because this is also what happens, and we see the resistance. But you have to understand, when you step up and act in that big and bold way, you're going to see the people around you who are afraid of their power, and they're going to say stuff. They might say stuff to you. They might say, oh, be careful, or like, oh, aren't you getting a little ahead of yourself? And they'll try to cut you back. They'll try to trim you down. They'll try to, cut you down to size to make sure you're not getting too much of a big head. But they're really doing it because you're threatening them. Because as long as you're playing small with them, then they have an excuse to play small. You playing small with them allows them to keep playing small. You stepping up and being like, oh no, I'm doing this, is a challenge to them. They realize they're not doing it. I had a lot of experience with this when I was starting my astrology career years ago. Because I came up and, there was a group that I studied with, or that, we all kind of knew each other a little bit. And, they kind of stayed where they are. They're still there. Some of them became sort of professional, but not so much. But people that I did my trainings with a long time ago through a different organization, we kind of knew each other and we kind of stayed in touch. And then all of a sudden, I kind of just kept going and I went for it. And I published a book and I was out there teaching and I was doing certification courses. And before you knew it, again, this was also rubbing the wrong way some of those teachers that were in that group. And some of my peers, not some of them, almost all of them, would criticize me. And, oh, who are you to do this? Oh, I remember Sam, he's this. And, trying to, take the wind out of my sails, a little bit. Because who are you to step up and have your own course and do all this? Somebody wants to get a course, they can go here. And who are you to do it? But I didn't care. I did it because that was what was in me. That's what I was passionate about. And some people didn't like it. And I made some mistakes along the way. But I did it because it was my passion. And when I say my passion, I don't necessarily mean my passion to be a big shot. It was my passion to teach, and to teach in a certain way. But I had to find my voice. That had to be the point. Again, this is my story, but it's also your story. I'm not telling it because I need to tell. I'm telling it so that you can kind of see these are the things that happen. And I started acting from a place of purpose because I realized certain things about the way astrology was being taught, the way it was being discussed and described, that I didn't like. Frankly, I didn't like all the fatalism. I didn't like all the good and bad, right and wrong. There's a good one, there's a bad one. All of the fatalism, all that, imprecise methods, techniques. It wasn't taught in a standardized way. It wasn't spoken about that way. So I recognized this. So I had a vision there was a reason for me to do it, not just to try to be another astrologer. And in fact, at first I was like, well, why do I need to do that? I'll just do readings and whatnot. But then I started to notice. And then once I noticed what was different and unique, again, this is the sun, this is the Leo energy, then it caught fire in me. And I was like, oh, this is something I need to do. I need to get this out there. And then it became bigger than me. It was bigger than my ego or my comfort zone or my confidence issues. And I had to deal with them. It's hard. There's a reason you don't step up. There's a reason you don't take a chance. Because as soon as you do, and this is true, as soon as you step this far outside your comfort zone, especially in a public way, everybody who wants to see you stay right where you are comes out. You get the little criticism, you get the little, here she goes again with all her big stuff. Yeah. And what happens is as soon as they say that stuff, you stop. Well, you know what often happens? What happened with me? I had to cycle through entire generations of friends and colleagues, associates. I realized they weren't really friends. They weren't really colleagues. They weren't really associates. They wanted somebody to commiserate with, and I had more important work to do. Again, I'm telling this story not because of me, but because this is the nature of Leo, and it's why Leo can also be difficult on like romantic relationships, personal friendships, because once you catch fire for a higher vision, you'll start to see all of those things. And if you're really on purpose, if you're in a relationship or a partnership or friendships that are trying to hold you back or that hold you down, at least that part of your life is going to have to change. That partnership is going to have to adapt. Your friendships are going to have to adapt because your vision and purpose is much higher. You can look at this also as the way a parent is with their children, right? Someone before they had a child. After they have a child, they're totally different, right? They're going to do everything to take care of that child. And if you were friends with them or something and, they're not going to be able to do the same things. And if you kind of make them feel bad about it or whatever, you're not going to be around them very long because they don't have time for that. They're going to take care of the child and pour all of their love and joy into that child. That child is now their teacher. It's like their purpose. So I'm talking about these things not just because we have the new moon there, but we also have Mars there, Venus is there, Mercury's there. There's a lot of Leo energy right now. And this is really a time for you to step up big. This is one of my favorite attributes of the signs is also their size. And Leo is a big sign. Big stuff. Big sign. So it's a time to do big things, to dream big, to think big. And remember that adage, it's a great one. An expert has failed more times than a beginner has even attempted. Right? So this next 30 days is a time for you to really trust and to follow your heart. What do you love? What are you passionate about? Again, this is a big quality of Leo. What fills you up with light and passion? Because if you're not following that, then in some ways you're kind of dead inside. It's the sun. Leo is ruled by the sun. The sun is the source of life. And in many ways, it's a source of life beyond just this lifetime in this earth. Again, the qualities of your ascendant, of your rising sign, show your unique personality and your nature and that unique kind of joyous path that you're trying to actualize, that feels congruent with your unique nature in this lifetime. But the sun is actually beyond that. It's actually a transcendent solar force of power. And in fact, the sun comes and tends to burn all that up, to burn up all those qualities of your individuality. And in fact, focus it, because then once you connect with your deeper sun and your deeper purpose, then that's an enduring, guiding light, soul wisdom and soul light that guide you. It also organizes all of those qualities of your unique self, your unique nature, as shown by your ascendant. The last indulgent example for myself, once that sun energy really caught a hold, then the unique qualities of my Gemini, which is my ascendant, it really focused it. It really illuminated it. Because again, the sun is like the guiding light, but I do the guiding light stuff in a very Gemini way. A lot of media, a lot of, speech, communication, details. I have a lot of courses, like to do a lot of stuff, play with a lot of stuff. Right? But that guiding light of the sun is the sun. So right now, this Leo nature is upon us all. And it's very important to know what sign Leo rules from your ascendant. Like for Aries, it rules the 5th house. Again, this is why people join my astrology training lab. Only 50 cents. You can see how this affects your sign. This 30 days. For Aries, it's 5th house stuff. For Taurus, it's the 4th house. It has to do with your heart, your home. Gemini, 3rd house, which has to do with new interests, new ideas, new ways of doing things. With Cancer, it's 2nd house, speech, communication, values. 30-day cycle of really focusing on that power. And all these planets in Leo really make it forceful at this time. And again, Magha nakshatra, again, you want to understand Magha is the Pitris, the divine ancestors, those teachings. Again, what are your higher teachings? Now, you can look at it in the worldly sense as well, and even in the lower worldly, corruptible sense. With Leo and the Pitris or the divine ancestors. I talked about it in the higher spiritual sense. It's the preceptors, like the great gurus, the great wisdom traditions. But in a more mundane sense, it's literally your family. This is why Magha and this is why Leo people are very family-oriented, very much about their heritage, their legacy. Like I said at the beginning, the king isn't elected. It's not a president. The president is elected. The president is a politician. A king is not really a politician. If he's smart, he would be, because then he would be bringing together his birthright power with the society. But in a traditional sense, the king isn't elected. It's conferred upon him. It's a matter of lineage. So it also has to do with your lineage. And again, once you know your true lineage, it's not something of this earth. It comes from the preceptors, from the great teachings, from the universe itself. That's the truth. So when you remember that and you connect with that, then your true light comes forth. You as a real king, as a sovereign over your soul's course. But naturally, people don't know that so much, so it's all about our family, our birthright, inheritance. You'll see people that have important planets in Magha, they have very strong family bloodlines, and they had a lot of, a real connection to family history and power and money and influence. So it's a time for you to really look at that family lineage as well. Even if it's not important in your life, even like with me, where I was pretty disconnected from my family pretty early on, but I notice when all these planets go through Magha, it really reconnects me with, a great appreciation of what I got from my family, and the family that I've created, the lineage that I'm putting forth through my work or whatever else is going on. If I was married and had kids, then it would be the family that I'm, how I'm passing things on. For me, it's been more about passing on teachings and whatnot because I haven't gotten married or had kids. So that legacy is also big right now. and the legacy that you're passing on and that you have inherited is really big as well. Mars and Venus are also in Purva Falguni nakshatra, which are also important. They have to do with delight and sharing the power of the kingdom, right? And in this next 30 days, we're also going to see Saturn turn direct, I think. Yeah, Saturn's going to turn direct later in the month. So during this time, we're seeing that shift will also happen. As you see, I've moved this forward a couple weeks. Mercury and Venus are going to go into Virgo soon, and then also, especially around the middle of September, because this is a 30-day cycle, we're going to see Mars and Sun, they're this combustion that I talked about, pretty powerful here, especially around early September. So we're getting right in this combustion where Mars and the Sun are exact. They're going to really pile up here in Purva Falguni. I'm going to do an update on this, but just showing you a little bit. And I'm going to do a 30-day, September forecast in the next day or so. But just foreshadowing a little bit, what we're talking about now is this new moon. And again, you want to know that these are how the cycles fire off. This Amavasya is followed by, it says Dvitya, wouldn't it be? It's followed by, it's right at the end. It's followed by Pratipada, which is the first lunar day, Shukla Pratipad. You see, this is Krishna Amavasya, which means the waning 15th day. Krishna means dark. Amavasya is new moon, or 15th Tithi. Krishna Amavasya, Shukla Pratipada. Shukla means waxing. Pratipad is the first lunar day. So you can see this is the shift from the moon being its darkest and being completely consumed in the fire of the sun, the fire of consciousness. So it's like the mind, ego, attachment of the moon gets totally consumed and burnt up at the beginning of these cycles. So when you look up in the sky, there's no moon. It's 2 weeks after the previous full moon. Moon is full, it's exactly opposite, and it's big and bright. Moon is new, like it is now, and it's completely consumed. And this is like sperm and egg meeting at the beginning of this cycle, right? So that's sort of like the gestation period here on this. You see, this is August 30th at about 3 a.m. in the morning, Pacific time. So that's the sperm meeting the egg and creating the Leo 2019 child. And that's why I'm analyzing this chart of that moment. So it's all this Magha energy, all this Leo energy, and for 30 days it grows. Again, the first 15 days it's growing and growing, and then the full moon is the middle life. It's like midlife when we sort of check in, because that full moon's going to be in Aquarius, where it's the reflecting point back. And then it starts to wane, and it prepares for the next cycle, which is Virgo. That's how the cycles work. This is why you hear me. I don't make a big deal about Gregorian calendar dates. I don't care that it's August 30th or August 25th or blue moon, again, which is 2 full moons in a Gregorian calendar month. I don't care about the Gregorian calendar for cosmic timekeeping. It's random because I also know how it was devised. The months are uneven. They have nothing to do with the soli-lunar connections. This is the cosmic time. This is the timing of our karma. These are the months of our karmic year. New moon to new moon. There's about 12 each year. And so this is why all the Indian holidays fall on these lunar cycles. We just had Krishna. Krishna Janmashtami, the birth of Krishna, during this month when the moon was in Rohini. On Janmashtami, the 8th lunar day. Again, these are all lunar days, and these lunar days are counted from the sun-moon conjunctions, right? In a couple months, on this day, it will be Diwali, because then it'll be the new moon in Libra, where the sun is debilitated and the moon is almost debilitated. So on that darkest day, we celebrate Diwali, which is the return of the light, or to bring the light back with intention. So again, these all fall on these soli-lunar days, not on Gregorian calendar days. This is just an explanation of the Gregorian calendar and the Soli lunar calendar of India. So you see this cosmic time of sun and moon coming together and these nakshatras. This is the primal timekeeping system. And again, just to say, this is why there is nothing at all legitimate about pure Indian astrology and the tropical zodiac. They just never did it because everything is nailed to the sidereal sky, the nakshatras, and the rashis occupying the same space. That they always did it that way, and they always would. All of the great cosmic ages are also nailed to the sidereal sky. Okay, so you really see it when you align these things with nakshatras as well. Magha, clearly Leo. All these qualities of the king. It's certainly not Virgo, which is where it would be now. It doesn't take much imagination to see that, and all the nakshatras line up like that. So this is just classical Indian astrology, cosmology, and it's important to understand how it works and why it works, and why, again, you see I don't make a big deal out of Gregorian calendars or things that bring that out. Like we just had that Leo, what was it called? Something with Leo, 8-8 Leo, it was called something, and I made a post on social media about why I don't pay attention to it. It doesn't mean it's wrong or it's bad, but it's related to the Gregorian calendar, which is not connected to these Soli lunar cycles. So I don't want to get too off, but again, this is also part of the teachings, right? It's time to really connect with the teachings now, to really connect with the purity of these wisdom traditions and these wisdom teachings. And the cycle in Leo, in Magha, is very much a part of it. So, as I said, part of it is Saturn is also going to turn direct. We'll talk about that sometime upcoming. Jupiter is also still in Scorpio. Again, so there's a lot of that churning and transformation of those Scorpio themes that I've talked about quite a lot. You can go through some of my recent videos. Of course, Rahu is still in Gemini, really bringing out the truth of the details, cleaning up a lot of the sloppy beliefs and ideas that we've picked up the last couple years. And so that's a kind of overview of some of the other things. If you want to see how this Leo cycle affects you, then you want to go to astrologytraininglab.com. You can click the link below, and 50 cents you can get for a 2-week trial. You get daily forecast, and you see how this will affect your sign, right? After you pay, check your email address. You'll get clear instructions on how to join the Facebook group to get the daily forecasts, and also get a lot of free classes, 8 hours of free classes. So you can check that out as well. But anyway, I hope you're having a good new moon in Leo, and all this Leo energy, fiery, roaring like the lion that you are. As Swami Shivananda said, don't bleat like a lamb. Karma, karma, what's my karma? Roar like a lion of Vedanta. Don't die here like a worm. Roar like a lion of Vedanta. You are a lion. This is why I talk like that. That's why I love Swami Shivananda. He was bringing it. He wasn't trying to comfort you with your demise and your measly little life. And oh, come on. He was going, come on. Don't die here like a worm. That's what he said. Roar like a lion of Vedanta. Now's the time to roar like a lion.